Now there is some integration of standards into the test analyst material, specifically IEEE 829, but test process improvement really is a management concept, and so it's focused on from the advanced test manager standpoint. Test tools and automation covered by both, or by all three modules, but again with a very different focus. Test managers need to think about concepts related to introducing and successfully managing test automation, whereas the test analysts are more focused on individual tasks involved in automating testing. And then we have people skills and team composition, which is really primarily the focus of the test manager. There's a little bit of material in there that's about skills for the test analysts and how they should grow their skills. But for the most part, this is something that test managers would focus on. So there are 10 chapters, and as you can see, the division across the three different modules is not disjoint in the sense that it's not like, okay, I can say specifically, these chapters are for test manager and only test manager, and these chapters are for test analyst and only test analyst, and these chapters are for technical test analyst and only technical test analyst. It's more the case that different focus has been put on certain chapters in some of the cases. There are certain chapters which are almost entirely focused on either test analyst, the modules, the two modules, or the test manager module. Okay, metrics, numbers, statistics. We all like numbers, try to measure things. There are 114 pages in the advanced syllabus. The learning objectives, and the learning objectives define what you need to know on the exam, but more importantly, what we, the authors, think you need to know in order to be competent in that level. So for the test manager, there are 64 learning objectives. 43 of them have to do with understanding. That's the K2. So understanding a concept, that's knowledge level 2. 12 of those learning objectives have to do with being able to apply a concept to solve a specific problem. That's the K3. And 9 of the learning objectives have to do with being able to analyze a situation and then determine how to apply certain ideas to resolve it. So as you can see, that's pretty heavy load of learning objectives there. A lot to know to that. Test analyst, 29 learning objectives, so it's a little more lightweight, if you will, though still very challenging in terms of the courses and the material, because while there are fewer learning objectives, many people find those learning objectives that are there very, very challenging, especially the test design ones. So there are 18 concepts that you need to learn, 18 distinct concepts. 7 concepts that you need to be able to apply to solve real-world problems, and most of those have to do with designing of tests. And then 4 concepts that you need to be able to analyze, basically. And then the technical test analyst, there's 44, so it's kind of midway between 25 or the understanding level, 11 in application, and 8 analysis. There are 21 referenced books, of which I'm happy to say that I've written a couple, and there are 7 reference standards. The primary reference standard is the IEEE 829 standard. Okay, so learning objectives. I've mentioned this. What are the learning objectives? The foundation and the advanced exams are based on learning objectives. Excuse me, get a drink of water there. The learning objectives basically say, this is what you should be able to do at this level of knowledge, at this level of capability, foundation or advanced. And the learning objectives are at 4 levels of increasing sophistication. So K1 is just be able to remember basic facts, techniques, standards, and so forth. Just remember what's in them. Remember that they're there, remember what they're for, remember what their content is, remember the definitions of terms. K2 is understanding. You need to be able to understand the facts, the techniques, the standards, and how they relate to each other. So it's a more sophisticated knowledge level, because simply parroting things back is K1, but then to be able to say, okay, well, this relates to this, and I understand what this means, okay, you can identify examples of this concept in action, that's K2. K3 is application of the facts, techniques, and standards to various projects. So if I say, apply boundary value analysis to designing tests for this web-based application, then you should be able to do that. You should be able to do that at the foundation level, and you should also, even more importantly and more thoroughly, be able to do that at the advanced test analyst level, because that's something that you're expected to, that's a concept you're expected to be able to apply. Now, K4, analysis. Analyze facts, analyze techniques, analyze standards, and adapt or select them for your project. So do a risk analysis. Analyze the risks on a particular application or project. And, oops, pardon me. That's some kind of glitch there with the screen advancing. Sorry about that. So analysis, analyze risks, analyze a given situation, decide what needs to be tested, how much, and so forth. Now, for the advanced exams, the entire advanced syllabus is covered at the K1 level. So you need to be familiar with the entire syllabus, even though you're not necessarily going to have other specific learning objectives on particular chapters. You need to be aware of it. So every test analyst needs to be aware of the concepts of test management that are discussed in the Advanced Test Manager sections, chapters of the syllabus. And each module, test manager, test analyst, and technical test analyst has its own set of K2, K3, and K4 learning objectives defined against each chapter. In some cases, there are no learning objectives defined for particular sections or of a chapter, or even entire chapters on a particular module. So, for example, the test manager has no learning objectives defined against Chapter 4, the test design chapter. The test analyst has learning objectives defined against Chapter 3, but they really only relate to Section 9 and maybe I think also Section 10, which have to do with risk-based testing. So it's very, very different. And they're almost, test manager learning objectives are almost completely non-overlapping with the test analyst and technical test analyst learning objectives. There's, I think, 3 learning objectives total in common across test analysts and test managers. So they're very different, whereas the test analyst and the technical test analysts are sort of different flavors of the same kind of perspective. Okay, now when you come to take an advanced exam, because you want to know what you're expecting, and the lower level learning objectives, the K1 and K2s, these are covered implicitly within higher level questions. So, this is very different than the foundation. So those of you